It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. We are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So I'm just looking at this again, and with the whole Jasmine Crockett thing from yesterday, that the Breitbart editor-in-chief, Alex Marlow, saying, she works for us, for the Republicans. She's a plant. And I'm like, plant that one out there. Tell Democrats she's actually a plant for the Republicans. You want to make her an oppressor real quick? Make that accusation. She is so bad she can only be a mole that the Republicans have put in.
Next thing you know, she's going to be driving a Tesla.
And since she's my representative, I'll be inviting her over to my house for a pool party.
A duck watching / pool party.
And she'll say, Gary, you said some mean things about me, and all the time I was working undercover for the Republican Party. Wasn't that obvious? Did you think I was that dumb?
Oh, you can say,
I'm not going to answer that.
I knew you were undercover, but I had to do my thing. You were doing your thing. You were doing your job. I was doing mine.
Right. So you were doing 29th dimensional chess. Okay.
Yeah.
I see where we are here.
Right.
So the question is, because since the election, this has been the most interesting question, I think, out there that nobody has an answer to. Mm-hmm. And I keep looking for a hint of an answer every single day. I wake up, is there a hint of an answer?
Right.
Is there something new? Are the Democrats promoting somebody new out there? Who are they trying to groom? I didn't say groomer. Who are they trying to groom? Well, there was an article yesterday, and it was all over the internet. I went to Politico to look at it, and here's the headline. You ready for the headline?
Okay.
A rising Democratic star is ready for new leadership without Chuck Schumer. Michigan Democrat Mallory McNamara said it's time for a new generation to take on Trump. Oh. So you're saying, okay, we got somebody new. Not currently in Congress. Mallory McNamara doesn't claim to have all the answers for the Democratic Party, but as a 38-year-old Michigan Democrat gears up for a likely Senate run next month, she says generational change is needed, including at the leadership level. In an interview with Politico, McNamara, a state senator, said it wasn't clear to her that Chuck Schumer could continue in his role as Senate Minority Leader, and that she would not vote for him as leader should she ultimately win a highly contested primary and general election. I think it's time for Schumer to step back. There's still this idea that Democrats and Republicans are still abiding by the same rules and still believe in the same norms and systems and structure. There seems to be a lack of recognition that this is no longer the Republican Party. This is the MAGA Party, and the same approach is not going to work. Oh, okay. It's not the first time McNamara delivered a difficult message to someone she respected. Wow. And then she goes through how she told Biden that he should get out. But first question that's asked, let's see if she brings anything new, right?
Yeah.
Right. So far, all we've gotten is rhetoric. There's no substance.
Right.
It's all the same rhetoric we've heard from Democrats.
Right.
So the next thing you look for is, okay, ideologically speaking, is there going to be a change? The question was asked by Politico. Democrats have been struggling to find their footing since Donald Trump won in November. Is there an ideological shift that needs to take place? I don't know that it's ideological, more just the approach. I think that what is very clear was clear in 2024 through the election cycle, and even still now, is that there are a lot of people who don't know what Democrats stand for and what Democrats can and will do for them in a way that gives them a vision of something that they want to vote for. This transcends political ideology, but it's just back to the basics. How do you approach this moment? How do you respond to a Trump presidency and the fact that Elon Musk has access to basically all of the government, and they are very comfortable rapidly tearing it down? I think it's less ideological and more, are you willing to fight for the future? And what is the future? And can you clearly articulate that to the people?
Wah, 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 wah.
And goes, so you're saying this revolves less around whether, this is the question, whether Democrats should move left or right, but around whether they should fight or accommodate? Right, it's fighting. They just don't get it. And so I always look for, all right, who else? Who else are they saying? Okay, this is the person. This is the person.
Yeah.
And what are they saying? Yeah. She's saying nothing different than AOC. Yeah. She's saying nothing different than any other of the radicals on the left. She's simply saying we need to scream, yell, louder, and riot longer.
Yeah, and what are you fighting for? We're fighting.
Right.
For what? It's the fight.
It's not ideological. It's not about the issues.
We're fighting for the people.
It's just, are you willing to fight for for a future? Well, based on what? Based on fighting for the future. Well, based on what? Fighting, not accommodating. Well, when have you accommodated Trump? I mean, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
I mean,
who's accommodating?
They don't have anything.
I guess that's a Schumer. I guess that's a jab at Schumer, right? I don't know.
I guess so.
I don't know.
I guess
it's hard to know.
So again, we need to fight harder for the continuing resolutions.
It's like, really, really.
But everything else was Politico. Was political after that. And, did you reach out? Does Schumer know? Is it clear to you that Schumer knows to step aside? Is it time for him to step back? If you're elected to the Senate, would you vote for him? Your primary opponents. But nothing at all is based on the fact that the Democratic Party sucks on the issues. And Democrats, if you don't know that yet, you need to learn that. Yeah. You're losing because you suck on the issues.
Yeah. And they just can't.
They just can't do it.
They can't do it.
And so now we've got a new fresh face. This is the new leadership coming up. The generational leadership. I love this one. When they write it that way. A rising Democratic stars ready for new leadership without Chuck Schumer. Michigan Democrat Mallory McNamara says it's time for a new generation to take on Trump. A new generation with the same rage, anger, and insane position on issues that 80% of Americans disagree with. How do you get up in the morning if you're a political party and you don't know where to stand or you don't know what the real problem is with your party?
I don't know, because here's the problem. They've gotten away with this kind of garbage for the longest time. Obama got elected on hope and change, which equates to diddly and squat. It means nothing. Now, I've said in the past, for the liberals, it was genius because it requires everyone to paint their own canvas of what hope and change means to them. But they got away with it until they didn't. Because what happened along with the identity politics? And they're still doing this whole fight thing. We got to fight. Well, they want to be the heroes. Each one of them now wants to be the hero. It's not about, this is what's going on with Crockett. This person in Michigan, Mallory, what's her name? What? And all of this is not about the issues. They don't want it to be about the issues. They want it to be about themselves. I want to be the fighter for what's wrong. Well, what's wrong? Everything. And it's, again, they don't have to be specific because they've never had to be specific. They've never had to debate the issues in their lifetime, these younger ones. Certainly in their career, they've never had to debate real issues here. You know, and now that's very clear. They want to stay away from the issues. And why is that? Because they lose on the issues. They've been losing on the issues for a while.
And in this article, she doubles down on the radical transgender movement. And then was asked the last question, if culture is upstream from politics, how can Democrats win back the cultural narrative where it matters most? And the fact is, she comes off against BS, against bull, but that's all she's doing here is BSing.
Yeah.
She said, that's real. Democrats have to start being unafraid to go everywhere and meeting people where they are. No, I don't think the answer is just to go on Joe Rogan because it's Joe Rogan, but a lot of people listen to Joe Rogan. Instead of snubbing your nose at those people, which is the perception that a lot of people have of Democrats, is that we're elitist and we're academic. Do you view them as, does that mean academic mean smart? I hope not. That we're elitist and academic, and we look down on people who don't watch traditional Hollywood movies or engage in mainstream media. That's a perception, and that's why people are turning against Democrats. You have to be willing to go into spaces that may feel a little bit uncomfortable and be willing to have maybe a 3-hour-long podcast conversations or go into a dive bar or go into a bowling alley. My God, how clueless. Michigan, really?
Yeah.
Some of our most loyal listeners are in Michigan. Really?
Yeah.
This is the person that's going to save the Democratic Party in Michigan?
Along with Jasmine Crockett.
Well, they don't own her. We do.
No, I know. Yeah, but save the party in general. They're all saviors of the party.
Then
that's the whole point.
Then after BSing across the board, she said, I know being authentic is overused, but I think it's true. People really have good BS detectors. They can tell when you're giving talking points and you're trying to be buttoned up. You mean like this entire article?
Right.
And this is the moment where I think people want to vote for people that they like and people that they trust, and they're not going to like you or trust you if they don't feel like they know who you are, and that's much a bigger job than just your job or your title. I mean, my God, it's complete BS political rhetoric from BS Political Rhetoric 101.
Yeah.
She doesn't say anything.
Nope. Again, they don't have to.
And we're fine on the issues. We're just presenting it wrong. We have to BS you in a more authentic way. Our BS is too easy for you to pick up on.
Well, they went from hope and change to fight and fight. And again, both mean nothing. Because unless you get down to the issues, it's all just staging. That's all that is.
But you know something? Trump is authentic. He's been the same person for the last half century. You know, when
he's never changed
since he's got in. He's authentic, but the thing is, they're authentic too.
No, this is what
they're
they
authentically crazy on the issues.
No, this is how they think. This is
how they think.
They're not pretending to be these people. This is who they are.
But she doesn't see them having to change really on any issue. They're fine on the issues. It's just they're not explaining it right. You don't know. We don't stand for anything. Actually, you do. There are some Democrats, voters that don't know, I believe, where the party is going, and they're confused. What's our party becoming? But your party has been crystal clear on where you stand.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you're losing.
Right.
And as long as Democrats are not willing to admit where they're wrong, none of these fluff pieces in Politico about the new rising star in Michigan is going to do anything to help you.
Yeah. It's not, again, they all think they're going to be the saviors of the party and the saviors ultimately of the nation. Honestly, they sound too clueless to know reality, to actually even recognize reality.
And look at this.
This is not an act.
That's why I'm so open. I'm authentic, and people want, you to be authentic. That's why I'm so open about talking about being a mom and what I'm doing with my daughter and that I have ADHD. I say that in public in front of people. I say this at my book event, and I've had multiple people thank me because they don't hear people talk about having divergent brains in public. Love of love of love. Yada, yada,
Well,
yada. Blah.
It's not a liberal unless it could be a victim too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There you have it. Full circle. Good job. Good job. Yeah.
I'm telling you. I got such, and it's a, you look at it online, it's a huge article. I mean, the headline takes up the whole window of your computer.
Right.
It's like, we've got it. It's Mallory.
Yeah, way to go, Mallory.
You know something? I'll take Mallory. I'll
Family Ties.
Yeah, I'll take Mallory Keaton
That's
now.
right. Yeah.
Over this Mallory.
Justine Bateman.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. She's making some sense these days.
I know. She learned from Alex.
Right, exactly.
She learned
Who
from
was the real Alex P. Keaton?
Yes.
I'll tell you who it was.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Wildfire news is primarily focused in mid to late March in parts of the southern plains. Yet USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says,
Also worth noting that we have seen some significant wildfire activity in parts of the eastern United States as well.
for instance, parts of South Florida, traditionally wet this time of year.
We have some severe drought currently affecting a lot of South Florida. And one of the biggest fires we've seen is burning not too far from the Homestead area, burning in what is typically swampland, but it has scorched about 26,000 acres.
Meanwhile, wildfire activity is being observed in the Carolinas.
There are a couple of wildfires burning in the western Carolinas that are unfortunately taking advantage of some of the timber that was downed by Hurricane Helene last autumn. A lot of available fuel there, and we have seen several thousand acres burned in western North Carolina and adjacent areas in South Carolina, and also several homes lost, unfortunately, across that region, too.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, former Attorney General Bill Barr, not Bill Burr, Bill Barr goes after the judges for usurping Trump's national security authority. So passionately took Trump's side yesterday, so we will get to that. Plus, we'll tell you about an ex-Biden White House staffer who rips the unethical former president's team for approving quotes and scripting questions. They bullied journalists. This comes from inside. Don't say this. Write a book.
Right.
Write a book. We'll get to that story and more coming up. All right, Babylon Bee.
Okay.
All right, now remember, they're a Christian parody site.
Right.
So-
Yeah. For those that don't know, they're not just parody.
Yeah, so here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, this is so good and bad. Federal judge orders Jesus Christ to uncrush the head of the serpent and restore sin and death to all mankind.
That's so perfect. That is so perfect. That is so perfect. That's rock solid humor right there. Well done.
listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, you were asking me a question here.
All right. So on the president's executive order yesterday, if the idea is to withhold federal funds from states that do not implement voter ID,
Right.
could the House not take that up as part of a spending bill because federal funds are involved? In reconciliation? Is there a bridge there? Is what I'm asking?
I don't think so. It's a great question. And I'm not positive, but I would say no, because it's not based on a spending bill.
On the allocation of the funds, well,
it's
not based on the appropriations,
right? There is no because the state is the one who finances IDs,
right?
And so I would probably say no, because what you're saying is, could you put that in a reconciliation bill,
right?
And with the I can't remember what's the name of the person that makes that decision. I can't think of the name of the title of the person in Congress that makes a decision whether something can be put in reconciliation, because it's not really a spending bill. So no, I don't know. Again, I think you and I agree on this. I think that everything that's going on, the president knows. That's why the president come out and go, these judges, whatever. But he expected it. He expected that everything that he is doing an executive order on is going to go to the courts. And he wants to win in the courts. And then he wants to make a point that these judges are rogue judges when they're overturned in the vast majority of the cases, as I believe will happen. And the cases, by the way, are slowly being overturned. I saw a couple more yesterday. And I think that the administration should be much louder on every single case that gets overturned. Why would you think it could fit reconciliation? Was there...
Well, no, it's again, because we talk about federal funding, and if it's reconciliation, is there a bridge to get to reconciliation with that asterisk or that item as a part of reconciliation? I
guess here would be something if you wanted to put a bill in that there must be voter ID. Maybe I found a loophole here. Again, just talking off the top of our heads here, that you could say we will allocate to the states this amount of money to ensure that ID is available for federal elections. At that point, if Congress put that in as part of a spending bill for IDs for federal elections, you might be able to put it in there. Because right. And then you're offering, because the state will say, well, that's an unfunded mandate. You're saying they have to need IDs for federal election. You're saying the state needs to pay for it. If the federal government would pay for it, the federal government will take care of the cost of any picture voter ID that must have any ID must fulfill this. It must be picture. In order to get the ID, you have to use this, and this, or whatever.
Were you thinking parliamentarian?
Parliamentarian, yeah, the parliamentarian, yes.
Yeah.
The Senate, the congressional parliamentarian, who would look at that and say, well, no, you can't do that in reconciliation. In fact, I think, was it Obama or was it Biden that got burned a couple times by the parliamentarian when they tried to do reconciliation? I remember I don't remember Trump getting burned on it. He might have. I just don't remember it. I remember one time in the news, and I believe it was probably Obama, when they were trying to get something through on reconciliation. They said, no,
right,
you can't do that. But if it's a spending bill and you're saying, because that would be the thing, there's no excuse from the state if you do that. If you say, we're willing to pay for any ID that's needed to vote in a federal election. Now, it's not going to be the driver's licenses. It would have to be some other form of ID, but that's not in the bill to begin with. But in the current, or not in the bill, that's not in the executive order right now. It just says, you must do that. You must show ID. And if the ID exists anyway, the point would be the state ID exists anyway. You have it. People have licenses. They can use it or your state ID,
right?
Whatever. But I was just doing a hypothetical that if you were saying we'll pay for the ID, then that makes it part of a spending bill. And it makes it part of spending.
Yeah, right.
So if you could finagle that. But
if you developed a program that for, I don't know, people who couldn't, because what has the debate been? People can't afford the $16.
All right, if you did that, for people that can't afford an ID, we'll have a
supplemental program.
Or would you just make it a federal ID then? Where you get onto a federal building and it can be used in state elections.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. And also used for flying.
But even that doesn't matter. What matters is getting it before the midterm into the courts. And
I think ultimately that's what the president's trying to do.
And then that's an 80-20 issue that you can win on easily.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
You win on it, you win on it big time.
Right.
And that's the goal. And that's why when we read the column earlier that talked about the fact that Trump needs to bring everybody in from Congress. They need to have a meeting and talk about what the plan is, because we got to get reconciliation done. You've got to we mentioned earlier that the president, again, on the Newsmax interview yesterday, when asked about reciprocal tariffs, said, no, we're going to be much more lenient because reciprocal tariffs hurt Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you had said, the day before with Hyundai, the same, he didn't say the exact same words, but he brought it up again. That's the second day in a row. And you notice there isn't any type of harsh rhetoric on tariffs, over the last 5 days maybe?
Right.
And so you look at it, they're worried about growth right now. Consumer confidence, again, lowest level in 12 years. The Fed not going to change rates because, they don't know, what's happening to the economy. And it seems clear that the White House is. And that's why we have said you got to get the pro-growth stuff in there now, because you want 1.7% economic growth that's projected for this year. It could be off completely.
Mm-hmm.
But hypothetically, if that's what you got, is not going to get it. It's not going to cut it.
Right. Yeah.
And so you need something now. And so that's why, whether it's what you're saying for, ID, all these things on the border, on voter ID, all the things that are 80-20. And we mentioned earlier, voter ID is another 80-20 issue. You can't win it. The American public wants it.
Well, even one Democrat agrees, and in fact, Senator Warnock in Georgia doesn't even know anyone who is against voter ID. He actually said that once.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So former Attorney General Bill Barr, and him and Trump don't necessarily get along at times,
right,
said the judges blocking these flights are overstepping their authority, talking about the Venezuelan migrants sent back to El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Barr said there's a pattern whereby these district court judges are trying to usurp the responsibility of the President of the United States in the national security area. The president is absolutely right to be frustrated and concerned about the way the courts are handling this. Barr's comment follows U.S. District Judge James Boasberg's decision to halt the deportation of individuals alleged to be gang members, citing due process concerns. Boasberg ordered the government to return planes carrying migrants who had already deported. That didn't happen, though. According to Barr, the ruling goes way beyond the judge's authority and interferes with the president's constitutional powers. Quote from Bill Barr, the Constitution gives the president the power to make the judgment on how we deal with foreign nationals when we are animated by national security concerns, said Barr, who served as Trump's attorney general in 2019 and 2020. It is his call. It is not the district court judge's call. Judge Boasberg had requested further details about the El Salvador flight, including when it landed and who was on board. However, the Trump administration has invoked the state secrets privilege, allowing it to withhold that information from the court. On Monday, the government attorneys asked an appeals court to lift Boasberg's order and allow the deportation flights to resume. The judges on the panel appear divided, with Judge Patricia Millett comparing the situation to World War II policies. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act than what has happened here. She argued that even Nazis had a hearing boards before being deported, while the migrants in this case allegedly received no due process. Barr says this case underscores a broader issue of district court judges issuing nationwide injunctions that impact the entire country, even where it's appropriate for the court to play its traditional role of safeguarding the liberties of American citizens. We have this phenomena of nationwide injunctions where the lowest level judge, district judges, try to bind the entire nation and bind the president in their initial decision. That is not what we have meant by judicial power under the Constitution. And they note here that Elena Hagan, Justice, the liberal Supreme Court justice, voiced similar concerns in 2022 at a speech at Northwestern. It cannot be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its track and leave it stopped for years it takes to go through the normal process. Barr is calling on the Supreme Court to intervene and resolve the issue. If the Supreme Court finally stand up and decide a case instead of hanging back from these decisions, I think it'll come out the right way, he said. I think most of the justices appreciate how absurd this is, which it is.
Yep.
So there's Bill Barr.
Well, and that's it.
Will Trump say a nice word about him now today?
Well, maybe. But what's true is true, and when you look at this legally, which is why you and I both believe that the president is on the path with many of these items to get this straight to the courts, and hopefully very quickly on this matter straight to the highest court, because he'll win. I think these judges know this. He's going to win. They don't care. All they care is to be a cog in the wheel. That's all they're trying to do. Slow the roll, slow the agenda as much as you can. That's the only thing they're trying to do.
By the way, I think if you were a Nazi illegal immigrant, you don't need a hearing. If somebody did a hearing at some point, and I don't know what she's referring to, the specific incident, if you're an illegal immigrant Nazi, you can be deported without a hearing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know what they're getting at here.
Yeah. Well, a Nazi who has been charged with a crime who is an illegal immigrant.
Yeah. Right.
Because what does she mean by Nazis? Were these people responsible?
Or do they just
for
own
the
a
Holocaust?
Tesla? Yeah. Or do they just own a Tesla?
Oh, man.
I have to ask.
Yeah, I love it when they're putting swastikas on the Teslas, and it's like, well, the majority of these you're putting swastikas on are Democrats.
Exactly.
The ones that own the Teslas.
Yep.
2/3 of Teslas are owned by Democrats, only 1/3 by Republicans.
Wow.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. What's happening Thursday night in Texas? Oh, man, I'm telling you. Testosterone, masculinity. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and former Congressman Beto O'Rourke to host town hall near Houston.
Is it a town hall on how to lose elections?
It's at the Fort Bend County Fairgrounds in Rosenberg, Texas, which is 40 miles southwest of Houston. It's being hosted by Powered by People.
Okay. All right.
A grassroots volunteer organization founded by O'Rourke that aims to register new voters because the new ideas come from Tim Walz and Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Oh, my. They just don't get it.
Yeah, they don't. They really don't
get it.
They don't get it at all. Wow.
They just don't.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.